The massive station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of light and metal. It was called the Galactic Council Station, and it was the largest structure Taman had ever seen. The human commander stood at the window of the shuttle, watching as they approached the docking bay. His uniform felt stiff and uncomfortable, but he wore it with pride. This was the day humanity would officially join the galaxy. Beside him, Ambassador Jiwoo adjusted her formal robes. She was nervous, though she tried not to show it. Earth had waited decades for this moment. Ever since the first alien probe had found their world, humans had dreamed of standing among the stars as equals. Now that dream was about to come true. The shuttle docked with a soft hiss. Taman followed Jiwoo through the airlock and into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the halls. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated, and some slithered along the floor. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with copper. A tall being made of what looked like living crystal approached them. Its body caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans. I am High Arbitrator Velnoth. The Council awaits you." They followed Velnoth into a massive chamber. The ceiling rose so high that Taman could barely see the top. Thousands of aliens sat in curved rows that circled a central platform. The noise of so many different voices speaking at once was overwhelming. But when Velnoth raised one crystalline hand, perfect silence fell. "Today we welcome a new species to our community," Velnoth announced. "The humans of planet Earth have passed all necessary examinations. They understand our laws. They respect our traditions. They are ready to join us in peace." Applause rippled through the chamber. It sounded nothing like human clapping. Some aliens made clicking sounds, others hummed, and still others flashed colored lights from their bodies. Jiwoo stepped forward and gave the prepared speech. She talked about humanity's hopes for peace, their desire to learn from older civilizations, and their commitment to following galactic law. Taman stood behind her, trying to look confident and capable. When Jiwoo finished, Velnoth gestured for them to sit. "There is one matter we must discuss before your membership is complete. It concerns warfare." Taman felt his stomach tighten. He had been afraid this topic would come up. Velnoth continued. "The Council has reviewed Earth's history. We have seen recordings of your wars. Your methods are—" The crystalline being paused as if searching for the right word. "Concerning." A holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed scenes from human history. Ancient battles with swords and arrows. Medieval sieges where entire cities burned. World wars with tanks and bombs. The footage was old but still brutal to watch. "We understand that you come from a difficult world," another council member said. This one looked like a large insect with golden wings. "Many young species go through violent periods. But you must understand that warfare in our galaxy is different now." The hologram changed. Now it showed what the aliens called a battle. Two fleets of ships faced each other in space. They moved slowly, almost gracefully. When weapons fired, they targeted specific systems on enemy ships. Engines, weapons, shields, nothing that would kill the crew inside. After a few minutes of this careful fighting, soldiers in bulky armor floated between the ships. They fought each other one by one like dancers in a strange performance. When a soldier was injured, both sides immediately stopped fighting near that area and sent medical teams. Taman watched in confusion. This wasn't war. This was more like a sporting event. "Combat in civilized space follows strict rules," Velnoth explained. "First, both sides must agree to fight. No surprise attacks. Second, battles happen in designated neutral zones far from populated worlds. Third, when casualties reach 5% of either force, the battle ends immediately. The losing side surrenders with honor, and both sides exchange prisoners and tend to the wounded together." The hologram showed exactly that. After a short time, one fleet sent a surrender signal. Both sides immediately stopped fighting. Ships that had been enemies moments before now worked together to rescue damaged vessels. Alien soldiers who had been shooting at each other now helped carry wounded to medical bays. "This is how the galaxy has maintained peace for 50,000 years, Velnoth said with obvious pride. "We learned long ago that unrestricted warfare serves no purpose. It only creates suffering. Civilized species fight with honor, compassion, and restraint." Jiwoo cleared her throat carefully. "High Arbitrator, humans appreciate these rules. We want peace as much as anyone. But I must be honest. Human warfare is different from what you've shown us." Murmurs spread through the council chamber. "Different how?" asked the insect-like being. Taman stepped forward. He knew this was his area of expertise. With respect, council members, what you showed us isn't what humans would call war. It's more like a tournament or competition. Human combat is faster, more aggressive, less predictable. We don't fight in neat formations. We use surprise, deception, and psychological tactics. We adapt constantly during battle. The murmurs grew louder. Some aliens seemed interested, but most looked disturbed. You speak of barbarism, Velnoth said, though not unkindly. We understand. Your species is young. You will learn better methods in time. But what if we face an enemy who doesn't follow the rules? Taemin asked. What if someone attacks without warning? What if they don't stop at 5% casualties? That has not happened in over 1,000 years, Velnoth replied. All species in this galaxy understand that breaking the rules means becoming an outcast. No trade, no diplomacy, no support. The cost is too high. Everyone follows the rules because it benefits everyone. And if a new species enters the galaxy that doesn't care about those costs? Taemin pressed. Velnoth's crystalline body seemed to darken slightly. Then the entire council would unite against them. No single species, no matter how aggressive, could stand against the combined might of the galaxy. This is why the rules work. This is why we have peace. Jiwoo put a hand on Taemin's arm, warning him not to push further. She turned back to the council. We understand and will follow your rules. Humanity seeks only to be good members of this community. Velnoth seemed satisfied. Excellent. Then we have one more announcement. As is traditional for new member species, Earth will be placed under the protection of an established alliance. The Thalaxian Coalition has volunteered to serve as your mentors and defenders. A new section of the chamber lit up. Dozens of aliens stood and bowed toward the humans. At their head was a being that looked almost reptilian, with blue scales and intelligent golden eyes. I am General Kivrex of the Thalaxian Coalition, the being said in a warm voice. We have not fought a serious war in 3,000 years. We will teach you the ways of civilized combat, young humans. Under our guidance, you will leave behind your violent past and embrace a peaceful future. Taemin and Jiwoo exchanged glances. The general's tone was kind but also condescending, like an adult speaking to a child. The ceremony continued for another hour. Treaties were signed. Gifts were exchanged. The humans were officially welcomed into the galactic community with great celebration. But later, as their shuttle left the station, Taemin stared out at the stars and felt uneasy. They don't understand, he said quietly. Jiwoo looked at him. Understand what? They think they've ended war. But they've just made it into theater. Real war, the kind humans know, doesn't follow rules. It's messy and brutal and terrifying, and if something ever forces them to fight that way again, they won't be ready. Maybe they won't have to, Jiwoo said hopefully. Maybe their system works. Taemin wanted to believe that. He truly did. But deep in his bones, in the part of him that came from a long line of survivors who had fought and bled and died to protect their homes, he knew better. The galaxy was about to learn what humans meant by war, and he suspected they wouldn't like the lesson. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Captain Do-Yun stood on the bridge of the HNS Indomitable and tried not to feel frustrated. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. They were good people and skilled officers, but the rules they had to follow made Do-Yun want to scream. Tactical drill complete, Captain, announced Lieutenant Hana from her station. All weapons locked on target successfully. Firing solutions calculated. Stand down, Do-Yun ordered. How long did the lock take? 4.2 seconds, sir. We can do better. Run it again, but this time don't wait for the computer to confirm target identification. Trust your instincts, Hana hesitated. Sir, Coalition protocols require computer confirmation before weapons lock. I know what the protocols say. I'm asking you to think like a human, not like their computers. Run it again. Over the past months, Do-Yun had watched his crew slowly become more like the aliens around them. Everything was careful, measured, and slow. The Coalition forces they trained with treated warfare like a chess game played in slow motion. Every move was calculated 3 times before execution. It made them predictable. And in Do-Yun's experience, predictable meant dead. The door to the bridge opened and Commander Hyun-woo entered. The Marine commander looked as frustrated as Do-Yun felt. How are the drills going? Do-Yun asked. Terrible, Hyun-woo said bluntly. The Coalition Marines move like they're walking through a museum. Everything by the book. No improvisation, no aggression, no fire in their bellies. If we ever face a real threat, these training exercises won't prepare anyone for reality. Before Do-Yun could respond, the ship's communication system activated. General Kivrex's face appeared on the main screen. "Attention all vessels," the Thalaxian general announced. "We have received a formal challenge from the Krillian Empire. They claim territorial rights to the mining colony on Outpost 7. As per galactic law, we will resolve this dispute through honorable combat." Do-Yun leaned forward. "When and where?" 3 weeks from now at the designated neutral zone near the Katal Nebula. Both sides will bring equal numbers of vessels. 50 ships each. The rules of engagement will be standard. After the general signed off, Do-Yun turned to his crew. "Hana, pull up everything we have on the Krillian Empire." Information flooded the screens. The Krillians were warriors, tall and heavily built with thick armor like skin. They valued strength and honor above all else. Their military record showed consistent victories over the past century, all achieved within the rules of civilized warfare. "They're aggressive," Hana noted, "more so than most species. But they always follow protocol. They've never violated a surrender or broken a treaty." "Aggressive but honorable," Do-Yun muttered. "That's a dangerous combination." Down in the intelligence section, Officer Sujin was thinking the same thing. She had spent weeks analyzing Krillian battle patterns and something bothered her. She finally took her concerns to Do-Yun. "Captain, I think we have a problem," she said, displaying charts and graphs. "Look at the Krillian expansion over the past 50 years. They've claimed 12 new systems through these honorable battles. They always win, but technically they're not breaking any rules. How do they do it? They fight at the very edge of what's acceptable. Maximum aggression without crossing the line. They're also brilliant at the 5% rule. They inflict casualties efficiently while protecting their own forces. Most opponents surrender before reaching the threshold." Do-Yun studied the data. "So they've figured out how to game the system." "Exactly. And now they want Outpost 7, which is dangerously close to Earth's sector." A meeting was called with General Kivrex and the other coalition commanders. Do-Yun presented Sujin's analysis and suggested a more aggressive defensive strategy. "We need to match their intensity," Do-Yun argued. "Show them we're not an easy target." General Kivrex shook his head. "Captain, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we will fight with honor. The rules exist for good reason. If we bend them, we're no better than barbarians." "With respect, General, the Krillians are already bending the rules. They're just doing it cleverly. They fight hard but fairly. That is not the same as breaking the rules." Kivrex's tone became firmer. "We will engage them in proper fashion. Honor will see us through." Do-Yun wanted to argue more but knew it was pointless. The coalition had fought the same way for thousands of years. They wouldn't change their tactics for one worried human. Back on the Indomitable, Do-Yun gathered his senior officers in private. "We're going to do this their way," he told them. "We'll follow every rule, respect every protocol. But we're also going to be ready." Engineer Bora spoke up. She was young but brilliant with ship systems. "Ready for what, Captain?" "For the moment when following the rules isn't enough. Hyunwoo, I want your Marines trained for close quarters combat. Real combat, not the gentle sparring the coalition does. But keep it quiet." "Understood, sir." "Bora, I want you to review every system on this ship. Find ways to push performance without technically violating regulations. More speed, faster targeting, whatever you can manage." "That might make the crew uncomfortable, sir. Higher G-forces, rougher maneuvers. Humans can handle discomfort better than most species. Use that advantage." "Hana, work with Sujin on tactical scenarios. Study how the Krillians fight and develop counters. Think like a human, not like a coalition officer." Over the next 3 weeks, the Indomitable's crew trained harder than any other ship in the fleet. Hyunwoo ran his Marines through combat drills that would shock the gentle coalition forces. They practiced boarding actions, hand-to-hand combat, and aggressive tactics that hadn't been used in galactic warfare for millennia. Bora modified the ship's systems piece by piece. The engines could now produce 20% more thrust for short bursts. The weapons could fire faster, though less accurately. The inertial dampeners were tuned for human tolerance rather than comfort. Hana developed tactical programs that the ship's computer flagged as unusual but not illegal. Targeting patterns that prioritized maximum effect over minimum force. Maneuvers that were aggressive rather than defensive. Lieutenant Jae-Won at the helm practiced these new maneuvers until his hands moved without thinking. The ship responded to his commands like a living thing, fast and fierce. Do-Yun watched it all and felt a grim satisfaction. They would follow the rules, but they would follow them like humans, not like aliens who had forgotten what real warfare meant. The day before departure, Commander Taemin visited the ship. He had heard rumors about Do-Yun's preparations. "Are you sure about this?" Taemin asked quietly. "The Coalition expects us to fight their way." "I'll fight their way," Do-Yun replied. "I just won't fight their fight. There's a difference. The galaxy is watching us. If we're too aggressive, it could damage Earth's reputation. And if we're too gentle, it could cost lives. I'd rather be alive and controversial than dead and respected." Taemin couldn't argue with that logic. He gripped Do-Yun's shoulder. "Then show them what humans can do. But be careful. The galaxy isn't ready for us yet." The fleet departed the next morning, 50 Coalition vessels including the Indomitable, all heading toward the neutral zone. On every ship, crews prepared for what they expected to be another civilized battle. Weapons were checked, protocols reviewed, surrender signals tested. But on the Indomitable, the preparations were different. Yunwoo's Marines sharpened combat knives that they weren't supposed to need. Bora ran final checks on systems pushed to their limits. Hana reviewed targeting solutions that other species would consider too aggressive. And Do-Yun stood on his bridge, looking at the stars, thinking about all the humans who had fought and died throughout history to protect their homes. They hadn't followed rules. They had done whatever was necessary to survive and win. "Captain," J1 called from the helm. "We'll reach the neutral zone in 6 hours. Maintain course. All crew to battle stations in 5 hours, and someone tell the Coalition observers to strap in tight. This might get rough." Across the fleet, ships moved in perfect formation toward the designated battle zone. General Kivrex broadcast a message of confidence. The Krillians were tough opponents, but honor and discipline would prevail. But on the Indomitable, the crew knew different. They were about to show the galaxy that humans understood honor. They just understood something else better. They understood winning. The two fleets faced each other across empty space. 50 Coalition ships on one side, 50 Krillian warships on the other. Between them, dozens of observer vessels from across the galaxy had gathered to watch. Among them was chronicler Yulthax, a historian who had documented over 400 galactic battles without ever witnessing what he would call true violence. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Do-Yun watched the Krillian fleet with careful eyes. Their ships were dark and angular, built like weapons themselves. Even at this distance, they looked dangerous. "All ships report ready," General Kivrex announced over the fleet channel. "Remember, we fight with honor. Precise targeting only. No excessive force. The rules will see us through." Do-Yun said nothing. Around him, his crew waited tensely. The ritual challenges began. Each side's commander spoke formal words that had been used for thousands of years. Promises to fight fairly, to show mercy, to honor the defeated. It all sounded very noble and civilized. Then the shooting started. The Coalition ships fired first as tradition demanded from the defending force. Blue energy beams lanced across space, striking Krillian shields. The Krillians returned fire with equal precision. Back and forth, the two fleets exchanged carefully aimed shots. But Do-Yun noticed something immediately. The Krillians were firing faster than protocol suggested, not breaking the rules exactly, just pushing them. Each shot was precise, but they weren't wasting time between volleys. "They're aggressive," Hana observed from tactical, more than the simulation suggested. Within 20 minutes, 3 Coalition ships had lost shields and weapons. They drifted away from the battle, disabled but intact, exactly as the rules required. The Krillians had only lost 1 ship. General Kivrex ordered defensive formation. The Coalition fleet pulled back, trying to create distance. But the Krillians pressed forward, maintaining pressure. "They're hurting us," Do-Yun realized, "pushing us into a tighter formation, where we'll have less room to maneuver." Another 10 minutes passed. 7 more Coalition ships were disabled. The Krillians lost 2 more, but they were clearly winning. Their warriors had perfected the art of fighting right at the edge of acceptable aggression. Aboard his flagship, General Kivrex was starting to panic. His carefully planned defense was crumbling. The Krillians weren't cheating, but they were fighting harder and smarter than he'd expected. "Captain Do-Yun," the general's voice came over a private channel. "I'm authorizing you to interpret the combat protocols more flexibly." Do-Yun allowed himself a small smile. "Understood, General. Indomitable to all human vessels. You heard the order. Time to show them what we can do." Finally, Hyunwoo muttered from his station. Jaewon, break formation. Take us toward that Krillian cruiser on the left flank. Breaking formation, sir. The Indomitable peeled away from the defensive cluster. Behind it, 3 other human ships followed. They didn't charge directly at the enemy. Instead, they began moving in ways that made the alien observers gasp. Jaewon pushed the helm through a spiral pattern, the ship spinning as it advanced. The maneuver was supposed to be impossible. Ships didn't move like that. But Bora had modified the engines and thrusters specifically for this, and humans could tolerate the G-forces that would injure most other species. I'm going to be sick, someone muttered on the bridge. Focus, Do-Yun ordered calmly. Though his own stomach was doing flips, the Krillian cruiser fired at them. But the spinning approach made targeting difficult. Shots that should have hit dead center missed or struck glancing blows against their shields. Target their shield generators, Do-Yun commanded. Rapid fire pattern. Hana's fingers flew across her console. The Indomitable's weapons blazed, not with careful precision but with aggressive volume. 3 shots hit the Krillian cruiser's forward shield generator. It flickered and died. Now their sensor array. More shots. The cruiser's external sensors exploded in showers of debris. Communications array. Another salvo. The Krillian ship went silent, unable to coordinate with its fleet. Full stop. Marines, you're up, Hyunwoo grinned. With pleasure, Captain. Boarding pods launched from the Indomitable. They were old-style assault craft, designed for forcing entry into hostile ships. The Coalition Navy didn't use them anymore. Nobody did. Boarding actions happened only after shields were completely down, and both sides had agreed to terms. But the Krillian cruiser's shields were only partially down, and nobody had agreed to anything. The pods punched through the damaged shield sections and latched onto the hull. Hyunwoo led the first squad out, moving fast and aggressive. The Krillian crew inside were tough warriors, but they'd never faced anything like human Marines in close combat. Flashbangs exploded in the corridors, blinding and deafening defenders. Tear gas filled sections of the ship. The humans moved through the chaos like they were born in it, using speed and violence to overwhelm opponents before they could organize resistance. Section A secure, Hyunwoo reported, moving to engineering. Back in space, the other human ships were executing similar attacks. They moved unpredictably, fired aggressively, and targeted systems in cascading patterns that left enemy ships disabled and confused. Aboard the observer vessels, aliens watched in growing horror. What are they doing? Someone asked. Following the rules, another replied. Technically, but this is barbaric, Chronicler Yulthak said softly, making notes. They fight like the universe is trying to kill them. The Krillian commander, war leader Thraknar, watched the human ships with a mixture of respect and alarm. He had fought many battles in his long career. He had faced every major species in the galaxy, but he had never seen anyone fight like this. These humans weren't breaking rules. They were shattering expectations. Concentrate fire on the human vessels, he ordered. Disable them before they spread disorder through our formation. But that was exactly what the humans wanted. While the Krillians focused on the 4 aggressive human ships, the rest of the Coalition fleet regrouped. General Kivrex, recovering from his shock, began coordinating a proper counterattack, and the humans just kept coming. Do-Yun watched his tactical display with fierce concentration. Bora, how are the engines holding up? At 95% capacity. We can maintain this for another 20 minutes before we need to cool down. Make it 25. Jaewon, take us through their formation. Right down the middle. Sir, that's suicide. It's unexpected. They'll hesitate to fire at full strength with their own ships behind us. Do it. Jaewon took a deep breath and pushed the ship forward. The Indomitable dove into the heart of the Krillian fleet like a shark into a school of fish. Enemy ships scattered, afraid to fire and hit their own forces. Target of opportunity, Hana called out. Krillian command ship, range 2,000 kilometers. Paint it, Do-Yun ordered. Hana locked targeting lasers onto the command ship. In the Coalition fleet, a dozen ships saw the painted target and fired simultaneously. The Krillian command ship's shields overloaded and collapsed. Hyunwoo, new target. That command ship. Take it. Already launching, the Marine commander replied. More boarding pods flew through space. This time the Krillians were ready, their Marines rushing to repel boarders. But Corporal Minji and her squad hit them with a level of aggression that shocked the warrior race. Minji moved like a dancer, her combat knife flashing as she closed distance faster than the Krillians expected. Behind her squad used a mixture of modern weapons and brutal hand-to-hand techniques that humans had refined over thousands of years of warfare. "Command deck secure," Minji reported 8 minutes later. "Krillian commander is our prisoner." Throcknar stood in his own command room surrounded by human marines. He had fought with honor, as had his crew. But these humans had fought with something else, something primal and terrible and unstoppable. On the bridge of the indomitable, Do-Yun checked the tactical display. The battle had turned. The Krillians had lost their command ship and 8 other vessels to human boarding actions. Their formation was broken, their coordination shattered, and the humans had done it all without killing a single enemy crew member. "General Kivrex, the Krillian fleet is in disarray. Now is the time to press the attack." The general's voice was shaken but determined. "All ships advance. Maintain fire discipline. Target weapons and engines only." The coalition fleet surged forward. The Krillians, leaderless and shocked, tried to reform. But the momentum had shifted. Throcknar, standing under guard on his own ship, made the hardest decision of his military career. He accessed the emergency communications and broadcast on all channels. "This is War Leader Throcknar. The Krillian fleet surrenders. We yield this battle with honor." Do-Yun checked the casualty count. The Krillians had lost 4.2% of their force, not even at the 5% threshold. They had surrendered early, because they understood that if this continued, the humans wouldn't stop until every Krillian ship was taken. Across the battlefield, weapons fire ceased. Ships that had been trying to destroy each other moments ago now drifted in an uncertain peace, and the galaxy's observers sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The moment War Leader Throcknar broadcast his surrender, something happened that shocked the galaxy even more than the battle itself. The humans stopped fighting, not gradually, not reluctantly, instantly. 1 second, the human ships were aggressive predators tearing through the Krillian formation. The next second, they were rescue vessels rushing toward damaged ships. On the Indomitable, Captain Do-Yun switched channels immediately. "All human vessels cease combat operations. Begin rescue and recovery. Hyunwoo, your Marines are now medical evacuation teams. Prioritize Krillian casualties." "Understood, sir." Aboard the captured Krillian command ship, Corporal Minji lowered her weapon and spoke to the confused warriors around her. "The battle is over. Where are your wounded? We have medical teams standing by." The Krillian stared at her in disbelief. Moments ago, she had been fighting them with terrifying intensity. Now she was offering help. War Leader Throcknar understood first. "Show them to our medical bay." 17 wounded, 3 critical. Minji tapped her communicator. "This is Minji. I need medical teams at my location. We have Krillian wounded, 3 critical." Dr. Youngsu's voice came back immediately. "Teams are launching now. Keep them stable. We're coming." Across the battlefield, the scene repeated itself. Human Marines who had stormed Krillian ships with weapons now returned with medical supplies. Human ships that had fired on enemies now moved alongside them, offering repair assistance. The Indomitable pulled up next to a severely damaged Krillian destroyer. The ship was leaking atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. "Bora, can we help them?" Do-Yun asked. The engineer studied the scans. "Yes, sir. We can extend our shield envelope around their damaged sections. It'll strain our generators, but it'll stop the leaks long enough for them to make repairs." "Do it." The Indomitable's shields expanded, wrapping around the Krillian ship like a protective bubble. Inside the destroyer, the Krillian crew watched in amazement as the lethal human vessel that had helped shatter their fleet now saved their lives. Dr. Youngsu's medical teams worked tirelessly. Human medical technology was less advanced than some species, but human doctors had something else. They had experience with trauma. Earth's violent history meant human medicine had evolved to deal with terrible injuries. Youngsu moved through the makeshift medical bay aboard the Indomitable, treating wounded from both sides with equal care. A young Krillian warrior with severe burns lay on one table. Next to him, a coalition pilot with a crushed leg received treatment. "You fight like demons," the Krillian warrior said through his pain. "Why do you now help us?" Youngsu looked up from adjusting the medical scanner. "Because the fighting is over. We don't kill for sport or pleasure. We fight when we must and we stop when we can. That's what it means to be human." The wounded Krillian seemed to struggle with this concept. His entire culture was built around warfare and honor. But there was something in the human doctor's eyes. Compassion mixed with steel, gentleness backed by strength. "I do not understand your species," the warrior said quietly. "That's okay," Young-Soo replied with a tired smile. "Most days we don't understand ourselves either." On the Coalition flagship, General Kivrex was trying to process everything that had happened. The battle had lasted less than an hour. The humans had fought with shocking aggression, broken Krillian coordination completely, and then immediately switched to humanitarian operations. He opened a channel to Do-Yun. "Captain, I need to understand what you did out there. Was that human military doctrine?" Do-Yun considered the question carefully. "No, sir, that was human nature. We fight hard because life taught us that half measures get you killed, but we show mercy because we remember being on the other side of it. Our history is full of people who were enemies one day and allies the next. Your tactics were barely within regulations. With respect, General, they were completely within regulations. We just applied them differently than you're used to." Kivrex couldn't argue with that. The humans had followed every rule. They had just followed them in ways nobody expected. Aboard his captured ship, Thrikinar was having a similar conversation with Commander Hyunwoo. "You are unlike any species I have encountered," the Krillian leader said. "When you boarded my ship, I thought we would die. Your Marines moved like hunting beasts, but you captured us without killing anyone." Hyunwoo shrugged. "Killing you would have served no purpose. The goal was to end the battle, not end lives. But the speed, the violence, the psychological warfare, no species fights that way anymore." "No civilized species," Hyunwoo corrected. "But humans remember what it's like to not be civilized. We remember fighting for survival on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We remember wars where surrender meant death, where showing weakness meant extinction. That memory lives in our bones, and yet you show mercy now. Because we can. Because we're strong enough to be gentle. That's the difference between having to fight and choosing to fight. We choose, and we choose to be better than our history, while still learning from it." Thraknar was silent for a long moment. Then he did something no Krillian leader had done in living memory. He bowed to Hyunwoo. Not a formal diplomatic bow, but a deep gesture of genuine respect. "Your species is terrifying," he said, "but perhaps that is what the galaxy needs. Someone to remind us that peace is a choice, not a guarantee." Throughout the aftermath, the observer vessels recorded everything. Chronicler Yulthax worked frantically to document the unprecedented events. His hands shook as he wrote. "The humans fight with a ferocity I have never witnessed," he recorded. "They move faster than should be possible, strike harder than seems necessary, and adapt to circumstances in real time. But what truly disturbs me is their capacity for instant transition from warrior to caregiver. They switch between extreme violence and extreme compassion with no apparent difficulty." He paused, reviewing footage of human Marines helping wounded Krillians. "Today I learned that the ancient wars, the ones from before my species reached the stars, were not exaggerations. They were restraints. War was once truly terrible, truly without mercy or rules. These humans remember that war. They carry it with them, controlled but not forgotten, and they can unleash it whenever necessary." Yulthax added one more note. "I do not know if I should be grateful they are on our side, or terrified that they exist at all. Perhaps both." Back on the Indomitable, Lieutenant Hana was running post-battle analysis. The numbers told an incredible story. The human ships had inflicted damage at 3 times the rate of equivalent coalition vessels. They had adapted tactics 17 times during the battle, and they had done it all while taking fewer casualties than any other ships in the fleet. "Captain, I've compiled the battle data. It's remarkable. We were more effective than ships twice our size." Du-Yun nodded slowly. "That's because we fought like we meant it. Now make sure that data goes into our training simulations. If this happens again, the rest of the fleet needs to know what's possible." "Do you think it will happen again?" "Yes, word of this will spread. Some species will respect us, others will fear us, and a few will want to test us. We need to be ready." As repair operations continued, Ambassador Jiwoo arrived on a shuttle from the council station. She had watched the battle from afar and needed to speak with Do-Yun immediately. "The council is in an uproar," she told him privately. "Some species are calling for sanctions against Earth. They say your tactics were too aggressive, too frightening. We followed every rule." "I know. That's what makes them so frightened. You followed the rules while completely changing what combat means." She looked exhausted. I've been defending your actions for hours. But Captain, you need to understand. You didn't just win a battle today. You changed the galaxy's understanding of what humans are capable of. Du Yun looked out at the damaged ships floating in space. Human and alien crews working together to save lives. Good, he said quietly. Maybe now they'll understand that we want peace. But we're also ready for war. Real war if necessary, and maybe that knowledge will keep the peace better than 50,000 years of polite combat ever could. Jiwoo couldn't argue with that logic. She had spent 6 months trying to convince the galaxy that humans were civilized. But perhaps what they really needed to know was that humans could be uncivilized when necessary. That they had the capacity for terrible violence but chose restraint. The galaxy is going to have to adjust to us, she said. Or we can adjust to them, Do Yun replied. Meet in the middle somewhere, can we? Can humans really follow their gentle rules when we know how to fight like this? Du Yun smiled grimly. We've spent our entire history learning how to be better than our worst instincts. I think we can manage a little longer. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was more crowded than usual. Every species wanted to witness the discussion about humanity's conduct. High Arbitrator Velnoth stood at the center platform, their crystalline body refracting light across the walls. The footage from the battle played on massive displays for all to see. Human ships spinning through impossible maneuvers, boarding pods punching through weakened shields, Marines moving through enemy vessels with shocking speed and efficiency. This council must address what occurred at the Catal Nebula, Velnoth announced. The human vessels, while technically following regulations, fought in ways that many find disturbing. We must decide if their tactics constitute a violation of the spirit of galactic law. Ambassador Jiwoo stood in the human section, Commander Taemin beside her. They had prepared for this moment, but the hostility in the room was palpable. The humans fight like savages, declared Counselor Marvex, a being composed of flowing liquid contained in a translucent suit. They showed no restraint, no dignity. They made warfare ugly again. Ugly but effective, someone else muttered. Jiwoo requested permission to speak. Velnoth granted it with a gesture. Esteemed council members, Jiwoo began, keeping her voice calm and diplomatic. I have heard humanity's tactics described as savage, barbaric, and frightening. But let me ask you this. Did we break any laws? Did we cause unnecessary casualties? Did we refuse mercy to the defeated? You followed the letter of the law while violating its spirit, another counselor argued. What spirit is that? Jiwoo challenged. The rule that says combat must be gentle and predictable? That's not in any law I've read. You asked us to limit casualties. We inflicted fewer casualties than the Krillians did. You asked us to respect surrender. We immediately stopped fighting and began rescue operations. You asked us not to harm civilians. There were no civilians near the battle. We did everything you required. Taemin stepped forward. The council made rules about outcomes, not methods. You told us what we couldn't do. We found ways to win within those constraints. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps your rules weren't as complete as you thought. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species agreed with the humans. Others were horrified. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Counselor Rixvan requested silence. The ancient being was rarely seen at council sessions, attending only matters of great importance. When they spoke, everyone listened. I am old, Rixvan said, their voice like wind through caverns. I have lived through the transition from the old ways to the new. I remember when warfare was brutal and terrible. I remember why we created these rules. The chamber was perfectly quiet. The humans have reminded us of something we forgot. War is not a game. It is not theater. It is violence controlled only by will and necessity. For 50,000 years we have practiced civilized combat. But it was only civilized because everyone agreed to be civilized. The humans showed us what happens when someone fights at the edge of our rules. They showed us that our peace was built on consent, not on inevitability. Rixavan turned their ancient gaze to Jiwoo. The humans terrify us because they are competent at something we have let ourselves forget. But tell me, Ambassador, after the battle ended, What did your people do? We helped the wounded. We rescued damaged ships. We offered medical aid to the same people we had fought minutes before. Exactly. The humans are capable of great violence, but they choose restraint. That is more valuable than species who are simply incapable of violence at all. The humans have made a choice. We should respect that choice. Velnoth considered Rixvon's words carefully. Then the Council's decision is this. No sanctions will be placed on humanity. Their tactics, while unconventional, violated no regulations. However, we will review combat protocols to address the methods they employed. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Jiwoo bowed with respect. Thank you, High Arbitrator. After the session, something unexpected happened. War Leader Thrakenar requested a meeting with the human delegation. The Krillian leader had remained at the council station to observe the proceedings. I spoke against sanctions on your people, Thrakenar told them. The Krillian Empire respects strength. You defeated us fairly. More importantly, you showed mercy when you didn't have to. My people wish to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. Taemin was surprised. You want to be allies with the people who beat you? You beat us because you are stronger. Among Krillians, that is reason for respect, not resentment. We have much to learn from each other. It was the first of many such offers. Over the following weeks, a dozen species requested military consultations with Earth. Some wanted to learn human tactics. Others wanted to ensure they never faced humans in combat. General Kivrex visited, the indomitable one, last time before returning to his homeworld. He found Captain Do-Yun in the officers' mess reviewing tactical reports. I came to apologize, the Thalaxian said. I treated you like children who needed guidance. But you were never children. You were warriors who had already learned lessons my people forgot. Do-Yun gestured for him to sit. You meant well, General. And you did guide us. You taught us your rules. We just applied them differently. Is that what humans do? Take what they're given and use it in unexpected ways? That's what survivors do. Humans spent 100,000 years adapting to whatever the universe threw at us. We're good at making the best of bad situations. Kivrex was quiet for a moment. When I watched your ships fight, I felt something I have not felt in centuries. Fear. You moved like predators, struck like lightning, adapted like water finding cracks in stone. And then you saved our lives with the same intensity you used to attack us. I do not know if I should thank you or be terrified of you. Why not both? Do-Yun suggested with a slight smile. Fear can be healthy. It keeps you alert. But gratitude builds bridges. The galaxy doesn't have to fear us as long as we all want the same thing. And what do humans want? The same thing everyone wants. Safety, peace, a future for our children. We'll fight to protect those things, but we don't want to fight. We've seen enough war to last 1,000,000 lifetimes. Kivrex stood and offered his hand in the human gesture of respect. Then I am grateful to have humans as allies, and I will make sure my people remember what you taught us. That peace is not the absence of the capacity for violence. It is the choice to restrain that capacity. After Kivrex left, Do-Yun returned to the bridge. His crew was there, monitoring systems as the ship prepared for the journey home. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving communication requests from all over the galaxy. Everyone wants to talk to us. How many requests? 47 official channels. Hundreds of unofficial ones. The galaxy wants to know what humans are. Do-Yun considered that. 6 months ago, humanity had been the new species that everyone pitied and condescended to. Now they were the species everyone wanted to understand, befriend, or avoid. Tell them we're just people, Do-Yun said. People who have learned hard lessons and are trying to be better than our history. Will they understand that? Probably not. But maybe that's okay. Let them wonder a little. Let them respect us for what we can do while hoping they never see us do it. Back on Earth, news of the battle spread quickly. Humans everywhere felt a complicated mixture of pride and unease. Pride that their people had proven themselves among the stars. Unease that they had done so by being frighteningly effective at violence. Commander Taemin addressed the media, trying to ease concerns. Our people followed every rule and protected those who needed protection. We did not seek this battle, but when it came, we proved that humanity belongs among the stars. Not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we understand the value of both strength and compassion. The message resonated. Humans had always been survivors, adapting to impossible odds. Now they would adapt to being the species that reminded the galaxy what survival meant. On the Indomitable, as the ship traveled back to Coalition space, Do-Yun stood at the window looking at the stars. Commander Hyun-Woo joined him. "Do you think we changed things?" Hyun-Woo asked. "Yes, the question is whether we change them for better or worse." "What do you think?" Do-Yun watched Earth's sun grow brighter as they approached home. "I think we reminded the galaxy that peace requires strength. That civilization isn't the absence of violence, but the choice to control it." Maybe they needed that reminder. Maybe we all did. And if someone tests us again, then we'll do what humans have always done. We'll adapt. We'll fight if we must. And we'll win if we can. But most importantly, we'll remember why we fight. Not for glory or conquest, but to protect what matters. Hyun-Woo nodded. "That's a burden to carry." "It is. But if anyone can carry it, it's us. We've been doing it since we lived in caves and feared the dark. We'll manage a little longer." The Indomitable continued its journey home. Behind it, the galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer the naive newcomers who needed guidance. They were the species that everyone now approached with respect, caution, and a newfound understanding. The age of gentle, civilized warfare hadn't ended, but it had been reminded that it existed by choice, not inevitability.